So starting off this list strong, in at number 10, let's talk about the 1954 meteorite that fell from space and it actually hit someone. This right here is Anne Elizabeth Fowler Hodges. She became a part of history when she survived being struck by a fragment of a meteorite. I mean, how many people can say that? The Sylacauga meteorite is the first documented extraterrestrial object to have injured a human being. So let me tell you guys what happened. A piece of this meteorite crashed through the roof of a farmhouse located in Alabama, and it bounced off a large wooden console radio, and then it hit Hodges while she was napping on the couch. Imagine like that's how you woke up. You woke up by being hit by a piece of meteorite that came from outer space. This made headline news, and I was looking into what happened to that meteorite because maybe that woman can sell it and become super rich. I'm not exactly sure on how much they sell for, but probably a lot, right? But this meteorite was actually confiscated by the police, who turned it over to the United States Air Force. So yeah, this woman lucked out. I don't know why she wasn't able to keep it.
In our number 9 spot today, we have cosmic disappearance. Some sort of unidentified thing that is larger than anything in our known universe is sucking portions of the Milky Way away. I know, it's terrifying, and it definitely is concerning, considering it's the place that we all call home. This discovery came in 2009 when researchers first found a cluster of galaxies moving at extremely fast speed towards a small area of sky. This area is located between the constellations of Centaurus and Vela, and whatever this whole thing is, it has experts completely stumped as to what it could be. For now, it remains a space mystery that has been dubbed Dark Flow so that it can sit on the shelf with the other terrifying space mysteries like dark energy and dark matter, whatever those are. In our number 8 spot today, we have Tycho. This is what is being called a zombie star. This frightening name comes from the fact that this star was once a white dwarf, which is basically what is left over after a star exploded, but its mass was not enough to become a neutron star or a black hole. What's different about these zombie stars, however, is that they have gobbled up a bunch of mass from another nearby star, which then leads to them exploding all over again in what is called a type 1a supernova. These blasts are insanely luminous and bright. Some even say that they have the light of 1 billion suns. This is all to say that they are insanely interesting objects and events that exist in the universe, and they are also thought to be helping scientists study what the heck dark energy is. In our number 7 spot today, we have Oumuamua. A few years ago, scientists all agreed that we had found an object that was flying through our solar system, and they called it Oumuamua, and it was widely agreed that it was an interstellar comet that had swung out from around another star. Upon closer examination, however, they realized that something was propelling it and causing it to accelerate, and this is when the debate started because they just don't really know why. Avi Loeb, who's a Harvard University astrophysicist, proposed the idea that rather than a comet, this could be an alien probe that is being pushed by a light sail, which is a very wide but extremely thin piece of material that accelerates by being pushed by solar radiation. Other scientists didn't agree with this and instead said that it's possible that hydrogen ice could have melted off of the object in a way that would mimic a rocket engine or something of that nature. Avi then wrote in a study that hydrogen ice is too easily heated and it would have melted off long before it reached our solar system. I guess all in all, we just have to wait it out while the scientists debate and gather more evidence to really know what is going on behind this one. In our number 6 spot today, we have the wandering moon. The moon is apparently slowly, sadly, moving away from Earth. When I say slowly, I mean slowly, as it's at a rate of about half an inch a year, but still, when we're talking about our cosmic best buddy, the moon isn't only the thing that lights up our night sky. The moon plays a vital role to our lives here on Earth due to its great companionship and its gravitational pull. The moon's gravity is what causes the tides of our ocean, so without our moon, who knows what would happen to our marine ecosystems. The moon is also responsible for the axial tilt of Earth and how it stays in relatively the same place. Without the moon, we either wouldn't have any tilt at all, or we would be tilted all the way. This would mean that we would either have no seasons, or some of the most extreme seasons any of us have ever seen. While it doesn't appear the moon is going anywhere soon, sometimes we just have to keep an eye on her to make sure. In our number 5 spot today, we have the mysterious gap. Basically, a new analysis by scientists at MIT of ancient meteorite found something new and super interesting. In the early solar solar system, there was what is referred to as a protoplanetary disk of dust and gas that rotated around the sun, and eventually it coalesced into the planets that we know and love today. So this new study and analysis suggests that this sort of mysterious gap existed within this disk somewhere around, I don't know, 4.567 billion years ago, and it was in an area near where the asteroid belt is today. The reason this gap is mysterious is because it isn't quite clear what the cause of this gap was. There are a few possibilities, including Jupiter, during the time when it began to take its shape. Because of its extremely large gravitational pull, it could have pushed gas and dust towards the outskirts, which then would leave a gap in the developing disk. There are other possibilities, but regardless of whatever caused this gap, it is said to have likely served as a cosmic boundary that kept material on either side from interacting with each other. In our number 4 spot today, we have a blitzar. So normally when stellar black holes are formed, they are the result of a large star exploding into a supernova. This then has the core normally collapsing into either a neutron star or a black hole. Blitzars are a hypothetical type of neutron star where they spin so fast that if they slow down, they'll collapse right into a black hole. I do understand that they are theoretical at this point, but some researchers believe that these stars might be an explanation for fast radio bursts should we find that they in fact do exist. In January of 2015, there were 7 different events that experts thought could be attributed to blitzars, but it is thought that they actually might occur once every 10 seconds in our observable universe. The magnetic field around a blitzar would clear anything prior to it turning into a black hole, which means that no nearby material would fall in upon the initial collapse, which means that there is no burst of gamma rays or X-rays, which is usually seen when other black holes form, and this is exactly why, if they do exist, they are hard to detect. Should we come to find concrete evidence of their existence, these guys would prove incredibly valuable insight into the formation of black holes. In our number 3 spot today, we have Hoag's object. Okay, so there are different shapes to galaxies. That's not the weirdest thing in the world. You know, we live in a spiral shaped one, it's beautiful. There are other galaxies called ellipticals that are more like oval shaped, but one galaxy in particular, which is now called Hoag's object, is truly like none we've ever seen. This galaxy has a yellow core, and this core is surrounded by an outer ring of blue stars that are much younger than the core, but in the middle between the two, there's just nothing, and researchers are completely stumped as to how this could have formed. The galaxy was first discovered in the 1950s, and since then, there is one leading theory as to how it could have been formed, but it still isn't concrete. Basically, this leading theory suggests that perhaps a small galaxy sped through a larger disc-shaped galaxy, which then created this bizarre situation, but the problem with this theory is that there are no signs of any nearby galaxies that could have served as this sort of bullet in this scenario. If that happened, it also would have sped up the core of Hoag's object, but we can observe it as moving quite slowly, so that also rules out this theory. There have been other galaxies discovered that have some similar characteristics to this one, but none share all of the qualities seen in this very bizarre galaxy. In our number 2 spot today, we have Haumea. Back in 2017, this dwarf planet passed between Earth and a distant star, which allowed scientists to get a better look at it, and thus they were able to discover some new findings. Haumea sits in an area beyond Neptune that is called the Kuiper Belt, and it is actually one of the largest objects inside of the belt. Before the new discoveries in 2017, we already knew that this dwarf planet was weird. I mean, it has kind of a weird elongated shape, it has 2 moons, and its day only lasts 4 hours, which means that it's the fastest spinning large object in our entire solar system. It is thought that its fast spin might be responsible for its weird shape, but either way, scientists were quite surprised in 2017 when they realized that this strange planet actually has rings. This means that Haumea likely had some sort of collision, and probably not too long ago, relatively speaking. This collision likely happened somewhere from 1 billion to several hundred million years ago, but the search for the origins of these rings brings a whole new mystery to the dwarf planet. In our number 1 spot today, we have magnetars. These space things are actually a type of neutron star, but what makes them different is that they have this insanely powerful magnetic field. Like, we are talking 1,000 times stronger than a regular neutron star, or about 1 trillion times stronger than the magnetic field that Earth has. That means that these type of stars would have enough magnetic power to wipe every credit card on Earth, even from a distance halfway to the moon. They're the most magnetic stars in the entire universe. This is all very cool and interesting, but it's also important to note that if you were to venture within about 600 miles or 1,000 kilometers of one of these stars, you would die. very quickly. The magnetic field would destroy your body. It would tear electrons from your atoms, which would then basically turn you into a cloud of monotonic ions, or single atoms without electrons. This is all to say that next to black holes, these are one of the most bizarre objects in the entire universe.
Starting off this countdown, we have the butt crack rock. This has to be the funniest thing found on Mars. But basically, in February of 2021, NASA's Perseverance rover was on the planet taking photos. That's when it took a photo of a plump rock with a crack running down it. And immediately, people started making jokes saying that the rock looks like a big old butt crack. In fact, it started when software engineer Kevin Gill saw the rock, tweeted a picture of it, and called it the butt crack rock. From there, it kind of just, snowballed. Glad to see, though, that people still have a good sense of humor. For that alone, this man deserves a raise. Like, not all heroes wear capes.
Moving into number 9, we have the Roswell UFO incident that took place in 1947. Take a look at this. This came crashing down to Earth, and if you search this into Google, you can find these images as well. Clearly looks like an alien, and also you can see more UFO pictures. Can this really be a UFO crash site? Well, there are obviously many conspiracy theories around this crash, because the US military stated that it is a United States Army Air Force balloon crash, while others say that this might be one huge cover-up and it's actually an alien spacecraft. What do you guys believe? I'm going with it might be an alien spacecraft. And at number 8, we have a piece of the moon. It's always scarier taking pieces of the moon because you just never know what type of airborne bacteria can live on it. There was actually a lunar meteorite found in northern Africa not too long ago, and just a tiny piece of it sold for more than $600,000. Imagine a piece of the moon just fell into your backyard, making you instantly a millionaire. There hasn't been a long-term human exposure to the lunar environment, but apparently the exposure to lunar dust can actually result in severe health risks from direct exposure or exposure from over time. So saying that, whoever owns a piece of the moon, hopefully they're keeping it well contaminated. Alright, number 7, you guys saw it in the intro of this video, you saw a little clip of it, but let's talk about the 2017, which was not too long ago. Well, I'm talking about the discovery of the Oumuamua, which was the first interstellar object ever detected in our solar system. Oumuamua, hopefully I'm pronouncing it right. Probably not, but in Hawaiian, it actually translates to first-time visitor from far away. Of course, when this object was made public, millions of people questioned, is it aliens? Others ask, where did it come from, or what does this mean for us? Could this be an invasion on Earth? Well, scientists from Harvard University believe yes. This could actually be signs of alien civilization. When you hear about a bold claim like that, coming from Harvard scientists, it actually makes you wonder. When Oumuamua traveled through our solar system, it actually didn't travel on a normal path. And as you know, as normal objects would travel in, and it's usually due to the sun's gravity, but instead it made its own path. So it makes us think maybe this thing was powered by some sort of thrusters. So it could be plausible that it was a spacecraft. Number 6, we have a satellite that fell to Earth. Have you guys heard the story of the Cosmos 954? Well, me neither. I had to do the research for this one. Well, back on January 24th in 1978, a Soviet satellite malfunctioned, which prevented a safe separation of its onboard nuclear reactor, so pieces of the Cosmos entered Earth, shattering around northern Canada. Now, this is pretty messed up. Luckily, no one was killed by this. Just imagine if like North Korean satellite crashed on American soil. I mean, that might spark World War III. So there's actually a law that everyone has to follow when it comes to space. So under the terms of the 1972 Space Liability Convention, whoever launched an object into outer space is liable for damages caused by that object. So saying that, the Canadian government billed the Soviet Union over $6 million for the cost of the cleanup and also for additional compensation for future unpredicted expenses. But the USSR paid just $3 million. From a failed USSR satellite to something that you would never expect coming from space, or should I say you wouldn't expect someone coming from space. An alien? Well, at number 5, let me introduce you guys to Fearless Felix, who is not an alien. He's just a crazy person.
Jumper away. Speed 725. Showing Felix Nice and a stable.
Is this real life right now? That is absolutely insane. Why? I have been skydiving, but I jumped from like 8 to 10,000 feet. Felix jumped from over 128,000 feet. This guy is absolutely nuts. I think this guy almost reached the moon. Okay, maybe not quite. This guy wasn't inside of Earth and when he jumped, but luckily for him, it was a huge success.
And Felix is back to his safety, the new world record holder.
Okay, let me take you guys over to Mongolia, in at number 4. There was this 2-ton object that crashed to the Earth near the Mongolian capital back in 2019. This object was added to the MUFON Witness database, which is actually the UFO network database. I didn't know there was a UFO database. How many aliens are on it? So people are actually believing this foreign object might be a UFO. The object looks like it has a rocket or a jet engine. It seems like the object came crashing down in a field of cows and no one knows what it is. On Reddit, people believed that it might be a hydrogen tank, and a lot of people think that this picture might actually be fake because one person pointed out, where's the crater that a heavy and large object would create? I mean, that is a pretty valid point. It's time to time travel for a sec, in at number 3. Let me take you guys back like 80,000 years ago, I know it's a long time, and let's talk about the Hoba meteorite that came crashing down on Earth. It wasn't until 1920 when a farmer found it on his field. Well, this thing weighs 60 tons, and it is known to be the largest known meteorite to be found. Today, it has been turned into a national monument, so now it's a great tourist attraction. Moving into number 2, let's talk about the meteorite that changed the history on Earth, like literally. More specifically, well, let's talk about the massive meteorite that might have been responsible for the extinction of the dinosaurs. If you guys don't believe this theory, what wiped out the dinosaurs, let me know in the comment section below and be as stupid as you guys want. I'll see what you guys type down there. Okay, that asteroid that you guys saw must have been huge if it left no dinosaurs behind. It is believed that the asteroid or comet was about 11 to 81 kilometers long, which is super massive. Finally, number 1, I saved the scariest for last. NASA actually predicts that in 2023, there's going to be an asteroid that is on a collision course with Earth that can do some pretty serious damage. The asteroid is twice the size of Big Ben, and I looked up Big Ben, and Big Ben is massive. And then imagine Big Ben, and then times it by 2, and then adding like fire all around it. That can ruin a whole city. Imagine if that hit like a dense city like New York, or what about if it hit like Shanghai, China? A population of over 24 million people. That can wipe out everyone. My biggest question right now is how accurate is NASA? I'm hoping that they're not too accurate. But then again, if NASA wasn't accurate, I don't know if that would be more scarier.
Starting off in our number 10 spot, we have radiation-proof bacteria. In 2002, Russian astrobiologists hypothesized that a bacteria here on Earth may have actually evolved on Mars. Deinonychus radioduranis is the most tough bacteria on Earth. It can withstand even the most extreme conditions such as cold, dehydration, vacuum, and acid, but the craziest part is that it is virtually radiation-proof. These little microbes can withstand several thousand times the amount of radiation a human can withstand, as well as more radiation than any other bacteria on Earth. You can even find this bacteria on the inside of a nuclear reactor. Scientists did an experiment to see how quickly this bacteria could build up a stronger radiation resistance by zapping the bacteria with enough radiation to kill 99.9% of it, and then leaving the remaining 0.01% to repopulate before zapping it again and repeating the process. It was concluded that it would have taken E. coli thousands and thousands of rounds to build up the same resistance that this hardy bacteria did in only 44 rounds. With this experiment, and based on the dose of radiation they gave each bacteria, it would take millions and millions of years to get even close to that amount of radiation they gave the bacteria in one cycle. Since Earth just doesn't carry that amount of radiation, it has led some scientists to speculate that since Mars is virtually unprotected and receives receives extremely high amounts of radiation, these bacteria may have evolved on Mars and gained their resistance in just a few 100,000 years, and that they may have been flung off of Mars by an asteroid and then brought to Earth on meteorites. It certainly is just a hypothesis at this point, but really, how else can we explain this random super-powered bacteria that is unlike anything else on our Earth?
In our 9th spot today, we have the giant spoon. Don't worry, when Elon Musk sends us to Mars, you won't have to pack your cutlery. Why? Well, Mars has a number of giant spoons. Let me explain. In 2015, Mars's Curiosity rover discovered what appeared to be a large floating spoon on Mars. Later on, they found another spoon, but this time it wasn't floating and it was much smaller. Unfortunately, it's not actually a spoon, but just rocks that happen to look eerily exactly like one. Either way, it's still pretty weird. Coming in at number 8, we have the blueberries. And no, the tiny small blue fruit were not found on Mars. Blueberries is the name given to these tiny little spheres found on Mars. In 2004, the Mars Opportunity rover spotted these small spheres near the Fram crater. They are about 1 to 2 inches across, so they're about the size of actual blueberries. On top of that, they do have a blue hue to them. Now, these things are weird for a number of reasons. One, the blueberries found within the soil are smaller than the ones found in the outcrops. Why? We don't know. And 2, the size of the blueberries also decrease with decreasing latitude. Why? Again, we don't know. They also don't have any idea what caused them to form these perfect round spheres. Obviously, they have some theories, but they have never been proven. In our 7th spot today, we have the collection of spheres. Now, don't be fooled, these are different than the little blueberry spheres that I just finished talking about. These were discovered in 2012 at an outcrop named Kirkwood. Basically, they look like a bunch of blister-like bumps on the ground. These are even more mysterious than the blueberries though. In fact, rover mission principal investigator Steve Squires said, and I quote, "This is one of the most extraordinary pictures from the whole mission. Kirkwood is chock full of a dense accumulation of these small spherical objects. Of course, we immediately thought of the blueberries, but this is something different. We never have seen such a dense accumulation of spherules in a rock outcrop on Mars. And again, they don't know what these are or what caused their formation. According to NASA, these spheres are different than the blueberries in a number of ways. They differ in concentration, distribution, and structure. That's why they call this collection so puzzling." Moving on to number 6, we have the meteorite. On January 6, 2005, the Opportunity rover found a basketball-sized meteorite on Mars. This is said to be the first meteorite ever discovered on another planet. Upon further investigation, they found that the meteorite was composed of iron and nickel. Now, here's the thing. This find was alarming for a number of reasons. One, according to Steve Squires, and I quote, "Mars should be hit by a lot more rocky meteorites than iron meteorites." Continuing on, he said, "We haven't really thought much about meteorites until now, but this discovery has really opened our eyes to the question. It was a huge surprise. Even NASA workers were baffled by this finding. And now they're doing more investigation on Mars and meteorites. In the end, this can help us learn more about space." We're now at our 5th and halfway mark with the plastic. It's bad enough that we have already polluted one planet with plastic and garbage, but it looks like we're already starting to pollute another as well. So when the Curiosity rover first landed on Mars, they found a piece of plastic on the surface and were like, what the hell? It literally confused NASA. They were like, nah, this can't be plastic wrap, but it was. And the explanation on how it got there is pretty lame, sorry. And it's not really a mysterious one. But basically the plastic came from the rover itself. A piece of wrap from a cable came loose during landing. But like I said before, let's not pollute another planet. Plastic definitely does not belong on another planet or in space at all, for that fact. Coming in at number 4, we have the face on Mars. Now this is probably the creepiest thing ever found on Mars. It was discovered in 1976 when NASA's Viking 1 orbiter flew by Mars. It was taking photos and managed to take a photo of what appears to be a face on Mars. Like it straight up has 2 evil dark eyes, a nose, and a mouth. People think that maybe this is an alien-built monument on Mars to worship an alien god. But of course, NASA just says it naturally formed due to erosion. Either way, it's hella creepy. Coming in at number 3, we have the thigh bone. This one is another pretty creepy one, not gonna lie. Back in 2014, NASA's Curiosity rover sent back multiple photos to Earth. In one of the photos, there seemed to be something sticking out of a collection of rocks, half buried in the dust. Zooming in, it looks like a freaking femur bone from a human thigh, which is scary for a number of reasons. 1, why is there a human bone on Mars? Number 2, what happened to the person that the bone belonged to? Then people were like, whoa, what if it's an alien bone? Especially since it's more crooked than straight like a human femur is. So people were like, yeah, that has to be from an alien. Well, it turns out that upon further investigation, the bone is none other than a rock, and not Dwayne The Rock Johnson. Get it? Scientists claim that the shape was created through erosion by wind or water. I know, very anticlimactic. But that doesn't stop people from thinking it's still a real bone. I mean, for all we know, NASA could be lying to us, just saying. Moving on to number 2, we have the ancient god. In 2015, NASA's Mars Opportunity rover took this picture. It was then uploaded on the Mars's exploration website. Upon closer inspection, people thought that one of the rocks in the photo had a weird design carved into it. In fact, they claimed that it looked like an ancient god's head. I mean, I can see it. The rock has a full-on wavy beard and everything. To UFO enthusiasts, this was more evidence that aliens live on Mars and are carving sculptures and busts of people that they worship. And in our number 1 spot, we have the person. In 2007, people went nuts when the Spirit rover snapped this eerie photo on the planet. It appears to be a human-like figure perched up on a rock. NASA immediately denied this and said, it's just a rock, people, calm down. But that didn't stop UFO enthusiasts. They believe that this rock is actually a statue of a female figure made by aliens. Maybe this is a god that the aliens bow down to. Not gonna lie, it eerily does look like a female. And that's not the only time a person has been spotted on Mars. They also captured this image as well, which literally looks like an eerie ghostly woman walking on Mars. Like, that one is too creepy. It's like, you can't look at that and tell me it's just a rock. I don't believe it. Nice try, NASA. Alright guys, that's all for today's video. Let me know in the comments below which one of these weird objects creeped you out the most. Honestly, that woman on Mars, just saying, it looks like a woman and not a rock.
Starting off in our number 10 spot, we have space energy. While a team of astronomers was working to map out the universe, which, for a second, imagine that's your job. What a task. Anyway, while they were doing this, they found a very mysterious object that is sending out bursts of energy every 20 minutes. This object is somewhere around 4,000 light years away, but despite this distance, it was sending out energy bursts that were so big that it was one of the largest radio sources in the entire sky. That's no easy feat. These energy bursts were occurring in a cycle where one would happen for 1 minute every 20 minutes before it would disappear for a few hours, and then this whole thing would repeat over again. There is nothing that we know of in this universe right now that would behave like this, so at the moment, while there are of course many hypotheses and theories, this is a mystery waiting to be uncovered. In our number 9 spot today, we have the USS Princeton UFO. What's a space list without the mention of a UFO sighting? This one took place in 2004. On November 14th of that year, the USS Princeton noticed an unknown aircraft of some sort that was about 100 miles off the coast of San Diego. For 2 weeks prior to this, the crew had been tracking a strange flying object that would start out at around 80,000 feet before extremely quickly dropping to hover right above the Pacific Ocean. Black Aces Commander David Fravor and Lieutenant Commander Jim Slate of Strike Fighter Squadron 41 went over in 2 fighter jets in order to kind of scope out the situation, and when they arrived, they saw what at first appeared to be churning water, while there was an oval shape just below the surface. After this, a white oval-shaped object appeared above the water, but it had no markings on it. Like, we're talking no windows, nothing that would indicate an engine, no wings, and the infrared monitors on the jets didn't pick up any sort of exhaust. The commander and lieutenant commander tried to intercept this strange aircraft, but it very quickly flew away and reappeared on the monitor 60 miles away. Like, when I say quickly, I mean it was moving at 3 times the speed of sound and over twice the speed of the fighter jets. Like some Top Gun Maverick stuff. So faster than any kind of technology we currently have. We still don't know exactly what this was, but I'll tell you one thing. We definitely don't have that kind of technology. In our number 8 spot today, we have the USO. UFO to USO. Daryl Miklos is an explorer who took a deep dive following maps that had been put together by his friend and former astronaut Gordon Cooper. The map Daryl was using was initially made to help identify more than 100 magnetic anomalies in the sea. During one dive at a location within the Bermuda Triangle, where everything weird happens, he thought he was going to find an ancient shipwreck, but instead he found something that continues to stump researchers and Daryl himself. He came across a very strange structure that wasn't like anything he had seen before. This structure had long obtrusions which stuck out from the sides, and the whole thing was covered in coral, so whatever it is, it has been down there for hundreds, if not thousands of years. Daryl has said, quote, "There's identical formations in 3 different areas, and they don't look nature-made, they don't look man-made. Certainly nothing I've ever seen based on my experience, and I have years of experience at doing this. We've identified multiple different types of shipwreck material. This doesn't match or look anything like that." People have started speculating that this structure may just be the remains of a crashed UFO. If it isn't that, then what else could it be? In our number 7 spot today, we have the Antikythera mechanism. The Antikythera mechanism is an extremely mysterious discovery that has stumped researchers ever since it was found. This artifact was found 150 feet below the surface of the Aegean Sea in a shipwreck, and it is the oldest kind of computer ever recorded, as it was dated back to the 7th century BCE. The author David Childress likened the finding to if they had found a jet plane in King Tut's tomb. That's how bizarre this discovery really was. Due to the complexity and oddity of the finding, alien enthusiasts have believed for quite some time that it may have been technology that was passed down from some sort of superior being, so aliens. When the artifact was recreated in order to learn about the mysteries it holds, the mechanism was able to calculate the position and running time of each planet. How would they have been able to create this without the use of sophisticated astronomical tools? I'm not saying that this is like concrete proof of alien life, but I don't know. There's just gotta be something else at play here. In our number 6 spot today, we have fossilized microbes. This is a piece of evidence that came from 1996, and it is said to have come all the way from Mars. 25 years ago, scientists said that they had potentially found what appeared to be fossilized microbes in a lump of Martian rock. This rock was hypothesized to have come off of Mars after some sort of collision that the planet had, and then just casually floated around in space for some 15 million years before it ended up in Antarctica in 1984. You know, just the kind of thing that happens in space. Once the rock was found and analyzed, it was found that it contained organic molecules and small specks of mineralized magnetite, which can sometimes be found in the bacteria here on Earth. Once viewed with an electron microscope, there were signs of bacteria found. Of course, with anything like this, there will always be skeptics, and some have claimed that the magnetite wasn't that similar to those found in bacteria, and some claim that the signs of nanobacteria were just grown in a lab. I'm not a scientist, nor have I seen this Mars rock, so I obviously can't tell you who is telling the truth here, but what I can say is that neither of the people who believe this rock came from Mars, or those who claim that it's fake, can prove their point without any kind of doubt, so I'll just let you draw your own conclusions on this one. In our number 5 spot today, we have Quark-gluon plasma. So basically, scientists believe that right after the Big Bang, there was this sort of really hot, goopy kind of a substance that was created, and it was made up of all different kinds of matter. Everything is moving around at the speed of light, it's hot, it's fast, and it's like cosmic soup. Okay, so experts at the Large Hadron Collider, which is the world's largest and most powerful particle accelerator, wanted to recreate this space soup. You know, part of the whole trying to solve the mysteries of the universe's origins kind of thing. When they did this and got the machine to recreate this, they ended up recording the highest temperature ever. Apparently this soup was measured at 9.9 trillion degrees Fahrenheit. We obviously can all understand that that is insanely hot, but just how hot? Well, that is 366,000 times hotter than the center of the sun. In our number 4 spot today, we have energetic cosmic rays. Energetic cosmic rays are described as high-energy protons and atomic nuclei that move through space at nearly the speed of light. There are some that originate from supernova, but there are some that originate from outside of our galaxy, and those ones have scientists wondering where they are coming from and what the source of them is. As these cosmic rays flow into our solar system, their paths are bent by the magnetic fields of both the sun and the earth. Upon impact with Earth's atmosphere, these rays produce a shower of secondary particles. Some of these particles do end up reaching Earth, but most are intercepted by either the magnetosphere or the heliosphere. The strongest cosmic rays are extremely powerful, and they can have energies of over 100 million times greater than a man-made collider. If you're wondering why you should care about this space mystery, it's because these things have the power to cause our digital systems to crash, and in our ever-increasing digital world, that could cause some major disruptions to our life. That is why we care about how many of their origins remain a complete mystery that has scientists stumped. And also because shouldn't we just know where these things that are bombarding Earth's atmosphere are coming from? Concerning is definitely the word I'd use, but honestly, what part of space isn't concerning? In our number 3 spot today, we have Elst-Pizarro. This is a weird little object that has been stumping scientists since it was first discovered in 1979. So basically, asteroids and comets tend to be fairly easy to tell apart. I mean, an asteroid is a solid lump of rock and metal, and you tend to find them more in the inner solar system, especially in the asteroid belt. And on the other hand, we have comets, which are usually more icy objects that travel from the outer areas of the solar system, and sometimes when they react with the solar radiation, they have those famous tails. So when Elst-Pizarro was first discovered, it was orbiting in the asteroid belt, so it was classified as an asteroid. Flash forward to 1996 and closer examination shows that it had a tail, like a comet. At first, experts thought that perhaps the tail was a result of some sort of collision, which is not uncommon for asteroids, but when the brightness and structure of the tail changed over time, it became clear that it was more of an ongoing process. Basically, this object showed signs and trademarks of both asteroids and comets, and it truly was a baffling discovery. Basically, the discovery of this object led to an entirely new classification: active asteroids. In our number 2 spot today, we have the fastest black hole. The biggest black hole that we have found so far is said to weigh about 40 billion times the mass of our sun, or about 20 times the size of our solar system. That's so scary. That's so big! Some of the outer, slowest orbiting planets in our solar system, like let's take Neptune as an example, orbits at a speed of about 165 Earth years. This huge black hole, the one that's 20 times the size of our solar system, yet it orbits once every 3 months. Do you know how fast that is? Neptune is considered slow at going 12,148 miles per hour. The outer edge of this black hole is moving at half the speed of light. The crazy thing about black holes this large though, other than how fast they're moving apparently, is that it is believed that they wouldn't necessarily kill you right away if you were to fall into one. In fact, it's thought that you would actually survive. You just wouldn't be able to escape to tell the tale because of that whole nothing escapes the black hole thing that they all have going on. In our number 1 spot today, we have supermassive black holes. Speaking of black holes, why is there a supermassive black hole at the center of most galaxies? We know that this is often the case, but we just can't quite figure out why. Every galaxy's supermassive black hole ranges in size, and we know that a stellar black hole forms from a supernova when the core of the star implodes, but we don't know how a supermassive black hole is formed. Because of the fact that the center of galaxies is where a lot of matter is boxed in, it could happen that supermassive black holes form from a cluster of regular stellar black holes, which all ended up merging together because they were in a tight confined space at the center of the galaxy. There are other theories as well, such as the possibility of these supermassive black holes being formed during the Big Bang. What I'm trying to get at is, we don't know how these things are formed, or why they are in the center of most galaxies, or even if there were supermassive black holes before the galaxies even existed. Maybe one day we'll find out, but this might just be one of those mysteries that is destined to stay a secret.
So let's get this started in at number 10 with earthworms. Yeah, that's right, thousands of earthworms were seen falling from the sky in Norway, and this was back in 2015. And apparently, this isn't the first time that earthworms have fallen from the sky there. A man named Karsten Ersted discovered that it was raining earthworms while he was skiing. At first he thought that these earthworms came from the ground, but there was over 50 centimeters of snow on the ground, so yeah, that would kind of make it impossible, wouldn't it? Well, he reported that there were thousands of worms falling from the sky, and at first he thought that they were dead. But then he picked them up, and they were still alive. I mean, this is so freaking gross. I would literally go straight down the hill with my skis and never look back. And I guess this might be a fisherman's dream, because that is like unlimited bait, if bait is just falling from the sky.
In our number 9 spot today, we have 2022 AE1. Just a few months ago in January, as the year began, scientists were watching an asteroid dubbed 2022 AE1 that became the riskiest one observed in over a decade. The initial observations of this asteroid placed it impacting with Earth on roughly July 4th, 2023, which would mean that there would not be enough time to deflect it, and this asteroid was large enough to do some real damage should it strike an area. Yeah, it was most definitely a cause for concern. There was a week where the moon outshone this asteroid, and so experts weren't able to see it and continued tracking its path, but once the moon was out of this phase, the risk seemed to have diminished. As of now, this asteroid has been taken off of the risk list, but who knows? It seems as though things can change quite quickly and unexpectedly outside the cozy home and protection of our atmosphere. In our number 8 spot today, we have a meteorite. On February 28th, 2021, reports came pouring in from across the UK of an unusual streak of light that was seen in the sky. These reports were far behind the UK's Fireball Alliance though, as their cameras had already picked up the signal and they were already in the midst of estimating its landing site. That's right, this streak of light was a meteor, if the title didn't give it away. It's a remnant of our early solar system that has been flying through space at unbelievable speeds until it came down through our atmosphere and ended its long, awesome journey scattered in a bunch of pieces across rural Gloucestershire. Teams were sent out to be responsible for the recovery of the extraterrestrial material, which was found in a family's driveway as well as in a sheep's field nearby. This meteorite is a rare specimen known as primitive carbonaceous chondrite, which is said to contain materials that have been essentially unaltered since the formation of the solar system 4.5 billion years ago. The pieces of this meteorite can give us insights into the building blocks of the planets, and it can potentially give us clues as to how the Earth came to be this wonderful planet that possesses all of the resources necessary to sustain human life. In our number 7 spot today, we have King Tut's meteorite. So I actually learned about this one from Taylor, since he's the little history bee, and it is so interesting. Quite recently, researchers made quite the discovery that actually solved a mystery surrounding a dagger that once belonged to King Tut 3,400 years ago. An analysis of the king's weapon found that it was actually forged out of meteorite just outside of Egypt. That is so cool. This whole artifact and the way it was forged is one of the greatest mysteries in history. It is exceptionally unusual in the fact that it was made out of iron, which is a material that the Egyptians would not begin to smelt for another 500 years. This was just one of the many treasures that was found within his tomb, and one that continues to add to the incredible accomplishments of the ancient Egyptians. In our number 6 spot today, we have Tabby's star. This star, which has also been referenced as the WTF star, is an F-type main sequence star which is located in the constellation Cygnus, about 1,470 light-years away from Earth. This star is of particular importance because of the fact that it shows unusual light shifts, which includes a 22% dimming in brightness. Basically, from our point of view, something continually blocks the star, and it likely isn't a planet because a Jupiter-sized planet would only block about 1% of the star the size of this one, so what could it possibly be? There are a few theories out there surrounding this anomaly, but none are able to fully explain what is happening here. Some believe that it is some sort of uneven ring of dust orbiting the star, and others believe that the star's luminosity fluctuates depending on the efficiency of the heat being transported to its photosphere. These are just 2 of the theories surrounding this star, but there are many more out there, and at this point we just don't know. Hopefully though, the James Webb Telescope, which was launched at the end of last year, will be able to get a more clear picture of what may be happening over there on Tabby's star. In our number 5 spot today we have new material. Of course, when meteorites show up to Earth, people are dying to get their hands on them to study them and see what all they contain. We get some pretty incredible deliveries of things that arrive on meteorites, and analysis has been able to identify about 300 minerals in different space debris that comes down to Earth, and 40 of those are ones that have only been found in meteorites. This is all very cool and interesting, but one of the most fascinating is the Allende meteorite. This is one that exploded over Mexico in 1969, and after analyzing samples from it, in 2012 scientists announced the discovery of a material that had never been seen on Earth, and that frankly no one knew was even possible to make. It was called pangite, and it consists of quite a strange variety of elements, including titanium, zirconium, and scandium. In our number 4 spot today we have CFBD SIR 2149. Ah yes, the rogue planet with the easiest name to remember. This planet really had the scientific community on edge in 2012. This is because most of the planets we are familiar with orbit a star. I mean, look at the one we're most familiar with. We clearly and thankfully do. That's not the case for this guy though. CFBD SIR 2149 seems to just be drifting across space without any sort of star. This planet is also huge. It is thought to be 7 times more massive than Jupiter, and Jupiter is quite a bit more massive than Earth. This isn't necessarily anything that we need to worry about. I mean, we're at home in our solar system with our star, not wandering around the universe or galaxy, so that's good. I mean, let's just hope it stays that way. Astronomers believe that there are likely billions of rogue planets, and that they might even outweigh the amount of planets that have suns. In our number 3 spot today we have shooting stars. Okay, so we often look to the night sky in an attempt to see a shooting star, and the chances might be pretty good depending on how light polluted the area is. I mean, either that or you're seeing one of the Starlink satellites, but either way, we know that shooting stars aren't really stars at all, and are instead meteors burning up as they move quickly through Earth's atmosphere. But what if I told you that there really are some shooting stars that are actually stars? Hypervelocity stars were discovered by astronomers in 2005, and it is thought that they occur, or form, when a binary star system, or a star system that has 2 stars, gets destroyed by a black hole. One of the stars in the system will usually fall into the black hole, which just may send the other one flying across through space as fast as millions of miles per hour. It's definitely not the same thing that we think of when we think of shooting stars, but it is quite the galactic event. In our number 2 spot today we have quasars. If you aren't exactly familiar with them, they are super compact objects that kind of have a star-like appearance as they are very luminous, and it is thought that these guys are powered by supermassive black holes. So there's obviously quite a few interesting things about these, but one of the most interesting is in relation to one in particular called APM 082795255. This one contains a black hole that is surrounded by a vapor cloud, and within the cloud is 140 trillion times the amount of water on the Earth. It's the largest water reservoir ever discovered. That's insane. Researchers believe that this giant watery cloud formed long ago, just 1.6 billion years after the universe itself. In our number 1 spot today we have stardust. Just a few years ago, researchers in Australia made a startling discovery. Ancient grains that were discovered inside of a meteorite that had landed inside of the country were studied, and it was revealed that they were actually grains of stardust. This dust was formed somewhere from 5 to 7 billion years ago, and it is now the oldest solid material ever found on Earth. These kinds of pre-solar grains are a very rare find. In fact, they're so rare that they're only found in about 5% of meteorites that have fallen to Earth. This is a fascinating discovery because having something like this really is the next best thing aside from having the actual star itself, and it gives insight into our universe billions and billions of years ago. Starting off in our number 10 spot we have Dragonfly 44. This is what is called an ultra-diffuse galaxy, and it is located in the Haumea cluster. This galaxy is of concern because of some interesting observations that were made in relation to it back in 2016. Basically, this galaxy was first discovered because of the influence it is having on our Milky Way galaxy. Astronomers noticed some strange sort of ripples in our galaxy and subsequently realized that this was due to the pull of Dragonfly 44's gravity as it orbited around our own. Of course, once it was realized that this galaxy was the culprit, experts started looking into the galaxy more, and that is when it was realized that this galaxy is actually quite dark. In fact, we can only really see this galaxy due to 4 bright stars that shine out of the otherwise dark, gloomy galaxy. This has led to the hypothesis that this galaxy must be largely made of dark matter. This is extremely interesting because not only is dark matter one of the most pressing mysteries of space, but this galaxy was found to be made up of 99.99% dark matter. Some even say that this galaxy shouldn't even really be able to hold itself together with so few stars. This is all to say that this galaxy is extremely interesting, and with further investigation and research, it may just be the key that helps us understand what in the world dark matter really is and what it's made of.
Well, from worms to strange blobs in at number 9. Over in the town of Oakville, Washington, it began to rain in the afternoon. Rain in this area is actually really common, but this rainfall was extremely weird. A strange substance was falling from the sky, and it caused a major concern in the area. Well, these things were the size of a grain of rice. Later on in the afternoon, a ton of the residents became violently ill. They had difficulties breathing, they had vertigo, blurred vision, and extreme nausea. A bunch of cats and dogs who came into contact with the substance became very sick, and they eventually died. One of the residents sent a small sample of the blob to be tested, and the results were shocking. The blob actually contained human white blood cells and 2 types of bacteria. People are saying that it came from an airplane, while others are saying that it came from aliens. Well, that's gotta be the logical answer, right? The aliens part? A cow drops into this list at number 8. Okay, wait a minute, how the heck does a cow fall from the sky? What kind of world are we living in? Well, back in 1997, a Japanese fishing ship sank and the men were rescued by a Russian patrol boat in the Sea of Japan. When the men were asked what happened to their ship, they said that a cow fell from the sky and sank it. Well, obviously Russians thought that this was fake news, so they arrested them and put them in jail. Well, that's kind of a harsh punishment, don't you think? Because several weeks later, a member of the Russian Air Force told the Japanese authorities that one of their crew members stole a cow for its beef and took it on their plane. The cow was acting up, so they decided to open up the hatch and moo. They just pushed the cow out of the plane. I don't know why they didn't just slaughter the cow first and then bring it onto the plane like they had a full-on live cow on the plane. I wonder if you had to go through security. And are you allowed to bring beef on the plane? I don't know. Or at least sedate this big guy so he's not problematic. Dead birds fly into this list at number 7. I'm gonna call this Birdageddon. A man from British Columbia, Canada witnessed dozens of birds falling from the sky. He was driving on a busy highway when all of a sudden he saw the birds suddenly hitting the ground around his car. He said that the birds dove face first into the pavement and died instantly. Well, that sounds super traumatizing. No, seriously, someone call Stephen King and tell him that I have an idea for his next book. I want to forget this has ever happened, so you know what, let's move on. Alright, number 6, we have scary meat chunks. Okay, what the heck? Is it too late to go back to the birds? So on March 3rd, 1876, large chunks of a rotting flesh fell from the sky, and this took place in Kentucky. 2 brave men offered to taste the meat to see what animal it came from. I don't know who would offer to taste it. That just sounds so ludicrous to me. And I'm gonna go ahead and say that they're not the sharpest tools in the shed. They don't know what kind of bacteria could be on the meat. Maybe they like having ringworms or salmonella. Anyways, these 2 men tasted the meat. Anyways, the 2 men said the meat tasted like mutton or venison, but a 3rd man said it was bear. Like, for sure. Well, how the hell do you know what bear tastes like? I would stay far away from him. Well, the mysterious meat came from a projectile vulture vomit. Now that is just disgusting, and these men ate it. Sucks to volunteer on that day. Giant metal balls fall into this list at number 5. Giant balls of metal were seen falling from the sky in different parts of the world. Well, that doesn't sound very safe now, does it? People over in Peru found a bunch of huge rocks in a field after they saw this in the sky. Take a look. Viejo! Those rocks are absolutely massive. They could easily wipe out the entire human race if enough of them fell on them. As it turns out, this fireball was actually a Russian space rocket that was re-entering the Earth's atmosphere. Vampire fish swim their way onto this list at number 4. Over in a small Alaskan town, mysterious giant vampire fish started to fall from the sky. These guys were a foot long and they were known as Arctic lampreys. They have 5 rows of sharp teeth and they were found laying in gardens, streets, and in parking lots. Families were so freaking terrified by these scary looking fish. Some of them were even too scared to come out of their homes. Well, you know what? I don't blame them. Take a look at their teeth. I'd lock myself into my house for weeks until the town got rid of them. There's no way in hell you would see me out there with these dead vampire fish. Spiders come crawling onto this list, or should I say come falling onto this list at number 3. Eric Reese was hired to be a videographer for his friend's wedding. As he was driving to the venue, it started to rain spiders. Now I know this is a lot of people's biggest fear. Thousands of them were falling from the sky. So instead of getting the heck out of there, Eric thought it would be a great idea to pull out his camera and film the whole thing. And to be honest, this is probably something that I would do as well. I'm not afraid of spiders, but maybe if there was like 100 of them coming down, maybe I'd be pretty terrified.
Que legal, cara, ó. Olha que legal, cara.
Cara, choveu aranha.
Nunca vi uma coisa dessa, cara.
Meu Deus!
But raining spiders isn't actually as strange as it seems. Apparently, the eczemus spider hangs from trees and they create webs that are 65 feet in the air and in trees. They do this to trap insects, but if the wind blows too hard, the spiders can fall off the web, so it looks like that it's raining spiders. Sounds pretty creepy to me. Moving up on this list, number 2, we have people. On September 25th, 1978, a woman was sitting in her parked car with her young son when suddenly, out of nowhere, a human body crashed just right into her windshield. I mean, that's probably one of the most traumatizing things that she's ever seen. I mean, where the hell did this body come from? Well, a Pacific Southwest plane crashed into another plane, killing 144 people. The person that smashed through the windshield was one of the victims. I just can't imagine what this must have been like. This is actually known as one of the worst aviation crashes in California's history. Blood drips onto our list at number 1. In 2008, bloody rain was falling from the sky over a small Spanish city. The residents were scared that this blood rain was part of some sort of hazardous chemicals, or it was an act of God. Priests in the village were saying that this rain was a sign from God that people will have to change their sinful ways. But they were wrong. According to scientists, this bloody rain was actually a lot less scary. The liquid turned out to be rainwater. It was infused with a type of microalgae. When the water mixed with the algae, it changed the pigment to red. Could you imagine if this was actually blood? Now that would be the biggest stain in history.